welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The warm glow of the evening sun basked our living room in a soft light, creating an almost nostalgic air as my friends and I gathered around the coffee table littered with photos from our recent hiking trip in the mountains. Laughter and chatter filled the room, each snapshot sparking a story, a joke, or a fond memory. It was these moments that reminded me why I cherished my friends so deeply. "Hey, check this one out!" Alex exclaimed, holding up a photo of us at the summit, wind-blown but triumphant. As we leaned in, Sarah, ever the observant one, pointed to the edge of the photo. "Isn't that the same guy from your birthday picnic last month?" she asked, her brow furrowed in curiosity. A chill trickled down my spine as I took a closer look. There he was, a blur in the background, partially obscured by a tree. "Yeah, and he's in this one too," Mark added, flipping to another picture, his voice tinged with unease. The same man, always on the fringes, his face obscured just enough to evade recognition. A knot formed in my stomach. Who was he, and why was he shadowing us? I tried to laugh it off. Maybe he just likes the same spots we do, right? But the seed of suspicion was already planted. Later that night, long after the laughter had died down and my friends had left, the nagging feeling remained. Unable to shake the unease, I began sifting through more photos, each click of the mouse sending a jolt of anxiety through me. There he was again, and again. Always there, always watching. I decided to start my investigation quietly, turning first to my wife, Jenna. She was out at her book club, so I rummaged through her things, guilt gnawing at me. When I stumbled upon a stack of letters tucked away in her drawer, my heart sank. They were from him, intimate, passionate, and utterly heart-shattering. The words blurred as rage filled my vision. My Jenna, the love of my life, entangled with a man who had been stalking our every move. And the letters revealed more than just an affair. They spoke of his twisted fantasies, how he thrilled at watching her with me, unaware of his gaze. When Jenna returned, I confronted her, the photos and letters laid out like a jury's evidence. Her face crumbled into despair as she admitted everything. The room spun around me, every happy memory tainted by her betrayal. In that moment, a cold resolve settled over me. I would not let this betrayal go unanswered. Her lover's identity, a local artist known for his eccentricities, became the target of my wrath. I exposed him, watching as his reputation crumbled under the weight of public scorn. And Jenna, she lost everything: her lover, her marriage, her sense of security. We divorced quickly, and the house soon felt like a mausoleum of our dead relationship. I moved out, leaving behind the ghostly echoes of a love that once was. As for Jenna, she disappeared from my life, but the scars of betrayal remained, a constant reminder of the trust one had so freely given and so cruelly had torn away. As I settled into my new, solitary life, the photos remained packed away, each one a snapshot of deception. But as I began to rebuild, I wondered if revenge had truly healed me, or if I had just spread my pain around, like the shadows that had once followed us in every cheerful picture. The crisp autumn air brushed against my face as I stood outside the cafe, waiting. It had been months since the divorce, and the city around me buzzed with the indifference of life moving on. Yet, for me, every street corner, every cafe held a memory of Jenna, like shadows flickering just out of sight. I was there to meet Alex, one of the few friends who had stayed by my side through the tumultuous storm of my marriage's end. He waved from across the street, his pace quick, a concerned look etched across his features. "Hey, man," he greeted as he approached, his voice low. "You look like you haven't slept in days. Are you okay?" We found a table tucked away in the corner of the cafe, the murmur of other patrons creating a curtain of privacy. I shrugged, stirring my coffee absently. "I'm getting by. It's just, every part of this city reminds me of her." Alex nodded, his expression solemn. I can only imagine what you're going through. But you've got to start looking forward, not back. Have you thought about taking that job offer in New York? It might be good to get a fresh start. The suggestion hung in the air between us, heavy and laden with possibility. New York, a clean slate, perhaps, but also a daunting leap. I've thought about it, I admitted. But it feels like running away. It's not running away, it's moving on, Alex countered, his voice firm. You need a change of scenery, and what better place than somewhere where nobody knows your story? He had a point, but the weight of starting over was a daunting prospect. Our conversation was interrupted by the ping of my phone. An unknown number flashed on the screen, and I excused myself to take the call, stepping outside into the cool air. Hello? My voice was cautious, the identity of the caller nagging at me. The voice that answered sent a shiver down my spine. It's me, Jenna's voice came through, trembling. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Why should I talk to you? My tone was cold, the old wounds fresh as ever at the sound of her voice. Please, just meet me. There's something you need to know about him, about the artist, she pleaded, her voice cracking with urgency. I paused, the curiosity and an old habit of caring for her bubbling up inside me. All right, I finally said. 1 hour, the park by the river. That's it. When I returned to the table, Alex looked up, questioning. I waved off his concerns. It's nothing. Just something I need to handle. An hour later, I stood by the river, the water flowing steadily as life continued around me. Jenna appeared on the path, her figure gaunt, her eyes wide with fear. As she reached me, without any greetings, she dove right into her revelation. He's not just a pervert, he's dangerous, she said breathlessly. After everything fell apart, I discovered something terrible about him. Her words were like a cold splash of reality. What are you talking about? I demanded. He's involved in some serious crimes, illegal stuff that could get him, and anyone close to him, into serious trouble. I think he might be planning something terrible. The plot thickened around me, the past and present colliding with a force that threatened to pull me under. Jenna's news was a beacon, albeit a dark one, and I knew then that my path wouldn't just lead me away from my past, but potentially into a confrontation I hadn't anticipated. Stay away from him, I advised her sternly. And let me handle this. As Jenna nodded, stepping back with a mix of relief and sadness, I turned away, the weight of her words settling onto my shoulders. What had I gotten myself into? And where would it lead me? The city's skyline loomed overhead as I mulled over Jenna's ominous warning. If what she said was true, then the man shadowing us was more than just a scorned lover, he was a criminal, potentially dangerous. The realization urged me to action. I needed to know more, and there was only one person who could help me without raising suspicion, Mark. I called him as I walked through the bustling streets, my pace quick with determination. Mark, can we meet? It's urgent, I said, keeping my voice low. Sure, buddy. Is everything okay? His voice was laced with concern. I'll explain when I see you. Let's say, half an hour at Joe's pub. Got it. See you there. Joe's pub was dimly lit and mostly empty, save for a few regulars at the bar. Mark was already there, sitting in a secluded booth, his expression serious as I slid into the seat across from him. What's going on? He asked straight away, skipping the usual pleasantries. It's about Jenna's lover, the guy from the photos. She called. He's into some bad stuff, Mark. Serious criminal activities, I revealed, watching his reaction closely. Mark's eyebrows shot up, his interest piqued. What kind of activities are we talking about here? I don't know all the details yet, but it's enough to make her scared. Really scared, I said, my voice tense. Mark leaned back, processing the information. And what's our play here? I mean, are you thinking about going to the cops? I shook my head. Not yet. First, I need to gather more evidence. If he realizes we're onto him, who knows what he'll do. Okay. How can I help? Mark's willingness to dive into the murky waters with me was a testament to his loyalty. I need you to help me keep an eye on him. Maybe follow him a bit, see who he meets, what he's up to, I suggested, knowing it was a lot to ask. Mark nodded, resolute. You got it. We've got to look out for each other, right? Right, I affirmed, grateful for his support. As we formulated a rough plan, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number, but the message sent a shiver down my spine. Stay out of what doesn't concern you. I showed Mark the message, my hands slightly trembling. Looks like he might be onto us already. Mark's eyes narrowed. Or it could be a bluff to scare you off. Either way, we need to be careful. After agreeing on a cautious approach and setting up times to check in with each other, we parted ways. The weight of the situation pressed down on me as I headed home, the night's shadows seeming to whisper warnings. That night, as I lay in bed, the gravity of the situation kept sleep at bay. The battle lines were drawn, and the coming days would test my resolve. Was I really prepared to face what might come? Or had my quest for retribution led me down a path with no return? As the city hummed outside, I realized that regardless of my readiness, the wheels were in motion, and there was no turning back now. As dawn crept over the city, the shadows of the previous night's fears lingered, making the morning gray and heavy. My phone, ominously silent since the last threatening message, now buzzed incessantly on the kitchen counter. It was Mark, and the urgency in his tone when I answered was palpable. He's on the move, and it looks like he's heading somewhere out of town. If we're going to find out what he's up to, now's the time, Mark's voice crackled through the line, tense with anticipation. I grabbed my keys and jacket. I'm on my way. Let's not lose him. We trailed the artist from a safe distance as he drove to the outskirts of the city. The early morning traffic was light, making it harder to blend in, but Mark was skilled at keeping us inconspicuous. Our pursuit led us to an old warehouse district, where he parked his car and entered one of the dilapidated buildings. Mark and I exchanged a look. This was it. Let's wait for him to come out. I have a bad feeling about this, Mark whispered, his eyes fixed on the warehouse door. But as minutes turned into hours with no sign of movement, my patience wore thin. I'm going in. Cover me, I said, determination stealing my nerves. The inside of the warehouse was dark and smelled of mold and decay. My footsteps echoed in the empty space as I cautiously moved forward. Then, I heard voices, one unmistakably his, the other muffled. I crept closer, hiding behind a stack of crates. The conversation was heated, money was mentioned, and something about a final warning. That's when I saw her, Jenna. She was with him, arguing fervently. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just a victim, she was a conspirator. My heart raced as betrayal twisted like a knife in my chest. I stepped out from my hiding place, unable to contain my fury. Jenna! What is this? I shouted, my voice echoing through the warehouse. Both heads whipped around in shock. Jenna's face drained of color. I can explain, she started, her voice trembling. Save it. I've heard enough, I cut her off, my voice icy. The artist, sensing trouble, took a step toward me, his hand reaching into his jacket. Without thinking, I lunged forward, grappling with him in desperation. A shot rang out, sharp and deafening in the enclosed space. When the police arrived, the scene was chaotic. Jenna and the artist were detained, the truth of their crimes spilling out in the harsh light of day. They were involved in money laundering, using his art sales as a front. As for me, I was left with a wound that was more than just physical. The bullet had grazed my side, a painful reminder of the ordeal, but it was the betrayal that cut deeper. Jenna had played me for a fool, and her lover had nearly cost me my life. In the aftermath, Jenna reached out, trying to explain, to apologize. But the woman I had loved was gone, replaced by a stranger with a heart full of deceit. "I never meant for anyone to get hurt," she said during one of the visits, her eyes searching mine for forgiveness. "There's nothing left to say," I replied, the finality in my voice mirroring the coldness in my heart. We parted ways for the last time that day, the chasm between us too vast to bridge. My revenge had been ruthless, exposing them, watching as they were punished by the law. But it brought no satisfaction, only the hollow victory of a man who had lost everything. The city, once filled with memories of love and laughter, now seemed a stark landscape of pain and betrayal. I left soon after, seeking solace in new surroundings, but the scars remained, a permanent reminder of the cost of trust and the price of revenge.